Why did you come to me off camera and talk to me?
At some point, you're gonna have to withdraw from the Invalidation Olympics. What Garcelle's dynamic with the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills cast in particular, or at least her time on the show, it's a prime example, if you will, a cautionary tale of aligning yourself with the workplace where you are essentially outnumbered, and no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what proof you bring, you will always be painted as the problem, the villain, the problematic one. Now, without any ties to these ladies, of course, we're just going to utilize what was presented on the show and honestly the storyline as a reference point to dissect how this type of dynamic typically presents itself in any professional sector, right? No matter where you work, or maybe even amongst any group. It could be platonic, it could be professional, etc. We're going to use their dynamic to teach us that the majority will always rule even when the minority is right. But furthermore, what I appreciate about Garcelle is she assessed this, she gave it a fair chance, she gave it her time, and after a certain point, she came to the conclusion that it's a fixed fight, and there was no real reward in her fighting to prove herself, stay in an environment that was clearly pushing her out, simply through being outnumbered. So there are instances where our departure, us leaving, is actually leverage. And to explain this more, I'm going to provide some examples by reading a few excerpts in books. Now, the first excerpt I want to read from is in this book right here. And the excerpt is titled Intentional Invalidation. And it reads, "This tactic is used when an envious individual aims to damage the target of envy's self-esteem and confidence by constantly invalidating them, their accomplishments, their achievements, and their positive qualities, while simultaneously disregarding their input and contributions." And it states that when using this tactic, the goal is to slowly break an individual's morale, optimism, and self-confidence down. Now, in this case, with the other cast members, I don't think that they were necessarily trying to break Garcelle's self-esteem down, or at least that's not what I picked up on when I revisited certain clips. However, when they constantly invalidated her, right, her input, her maybe receipts, what it was doing was it was establishing a dynamic to where it made it seem as if Garcelle was the problem and the other ladies were all on the same accord. And this is typically how people are able to keep invalidating you, because they understand this principle that most of the time there is power in numbers. And I'm going to build upon this principle by reading an excerpt in this book. And the excerpt is titled There's Power in Numbers. And it reads, "You've probably heard the saying, there's power in numbers. It's often true. The stronger it becomes when more people join a movement or group. However, in systems of coercive power, numbers are not just a tool for strength, but also a tactic for intimidation." And what I respect about Garcelle is I believe she observed this and she implemented a course of action that I would advise a lot of people to take when they find themselves dealing with these types of dynamics amongst a group. And it's simply this principle of knowing when to hold them and knowing when to fold them. And this is actually broken down in another excerpt in this book, and I'm going to also read from that quickly. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. This tactic is not meant to say one has been defeated as much as it's meant to acknowledge when it is best to no longer engage. As in the game poker, sometimes it's best to fold our hand when dealing with an envious individual rather than hold our hand and attempt to play it. Don't let pride and ego be your downfall. Those who win know how to step down. And another thing I respect about this is I think it provides an alternative perspective on what resilience can look like. I think for the most part, we've been, conditioned to think that resilience is only presented when we stay in a situation. But there are also instances where our resilience is presented in our decision to leave. And understanding how leaving can actually be leverage. And there's actually a final excerpt that I want to read from, and it is listed in this book that talks about this a little bit more. And the Leaving is Leverage excerpt reads, "Oftentimes we confuse the need to pivot with giving up or quitting. However, we must understand nothing is costlier than investing valuable resources and energy into a broken vessel. Not only do our efforts go to waste, but we also squander precious time." Now, what I love about this dynamic is it depicts a valuable lesson, not just in professional settings, but with any relationship, any interpersonal dynamic. There are instances where you just simply bow out gracefully. No hard feelings, no resentment, no holding grudges. It's just you realize that it's best for you to get your things and get out of Dodge. So with that being said, sometimes you will leave an environment with connections, with resources, with opportunities, but there are also instances where you simply leave with the lesson, and that in itself is sufficient enough.